Hey guys, Alex and Dan from 7th Hour Films back again with Doctor Who. Last time around we had The Sound of Drums. What was that one about?
Well, following the end of Utopia, Professor Yana regenerated into the Master, and then it continued over into The Sound of Drums, where the Master had then gone back to the 21st century and turned himself into Harold Saxon and had somehow hypnotized the entire British population and a lot of people in the world to get him elected Prime Minister. And then he was supposedly setting up some first contact with the
Toclafane.
Okay. Which were basically like these little Star Wars probe droids who came in, and he was going to decimate 1/10 of the planet. And he shot Jack, apparently not realizing that Jack can't die, or maybe he did, shot him anyway. Used the DNA aging thing from a previous episode to age the Doctor up 100 years, and then didn't Martha escape?
Yes, Jackie gave her the vortex manipulator, and so she escaped from there.
And I was reading something this past week, something very interesting I hadn't realized before. The whole thing about the sound of the drums, and pardon me if this sounds too loud on the video, but somebody pointed out that's the bass line to the Doctor Who theme.
Yeah, I guess it is. So, that's an interesting little thing.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's pretty much where we left off. The Master has succeeded. For the first time in the history of this show, he has done something successful, and he has taken control of the world. And it's interesting because I thought about it. It's like we never really see the Master at this point. Like it's always he's starting something and he gets stopped before anything can happen. But this is the first time where it's like, no, they've, for all intents and purposes, they've lost, and they need to regroup to try to take him down again.
Now, at one point, at the end of Tom Baker, didn't he... There was something about he was literally creating the end of the universe because everything started to crumble. He had succeeded so well that it had backfired on him, and then he and the Doctor had to work together. Logopolis or something.
Maybe.
It kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah, there was something like that with that. Because there was the people, the math people that were
essentially keeping the universe going with math.
With math. That was a long time ago. So, but yeah, also, this week, which I probably should have told you before the video started, but we also have a mini-sode that we're going to do after the episode.
Okay.
Shouldn't take but 15, 20 minutes maybe. But it's one of the few mini-sodes that is actually worth doing. It doesn't really have an effect like on any story or anything, but it's just a good one to watch. Yeah. So we'll watch that. Honestly, I think it'll probably just be its own separate video, and we'll just watch that. We'll put it up on Wednesday in that slot. But yeah, and then after this, I suppose we will get started on watching season 2 of Torchwood on our own time. We're probably not going to react to it, but we will come back at the end of Torchwood season 2, and we'll just discuss the whole thing, and it will be interesting. It's been a fascinating thing figuring out who's a fan of Torchwood and who's not, because I feel like there's almost no middle ground in the comments. I either see people... It's weird. It's always the first people that comment are the ones that are like, yeah, I hate Torchwood. This is terrible. And then like a day or two later, then people start leaving comments that are like, I actually really love Torchwood, and I think you're wrong about this, which that's fine. If you like Torchwood, that's great. I used to like Torchwood, but... And watching it again, it's not like it's the worst thing in the world, but it's just...
And individually, I'm like, I like the character of Jack.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting the way Gwen was literally plucked out of obscurity. This police constable, and is now forced to work with this, literally interplanetary agency. But Yanto and Tosh and Owen all have incredibly weird problems that don't make them very likable, and as a result, it's not a very cohesive unit, and we've discussed this at length before. It just makes you go, I'm not sure that I would have continued watching.
Yeah, so also I suppose we should watch some of the Sarah Jane Adventures. We said that there were 2 episodes that we were going to watch on camera, and they are important episodes. Someone reminded me of another episode to watch on camera, and it is a big it is a big episode. I completely forgot about it, but it is a big one. I don't know if there's anything else, and we might do with the Sarah Jane Adventures. They kind of had a pilot episode, which for the most part is canon, and I mean it is canon, but then you get the actual first episode of the season, so that that's sort of episode 0. Then you get episode 1, and some things change over from that. So I guess we can watch the pilot episode on camera. So who knows? Maybe we'll do that next week. So we'll try to fit those in, especially because I do really remember liking the Sarah Jane Adventures. I thought it was good. I think you'll probably like it way more than Torchwood. And if we had the time, we would probably do all the episodes because they are a lot of fun. We don't have the time, namely because I think at the end of this week, from where we're recording, the new season of Doctor Who starts up. So I am busy after this. So
and by the way, beginning of last week, I saw an article online how Doctor Who was being canceled, and they were retooling it, and instead of Doctor, it was just going to be Dr. Who, and it was a big long article, and I was like reading this going, what the heck? And then I went back up, scrolled up to the top, and it was dated April 1st, 2025. So I went, okay. Almost got me.
I did fall for a couple of those. There's a group of YouTubers that they have a series that they do every so often, every few months, and what was that, Tuesday, they uploaded a new video. They all uploaded new videos for their new series, and I thought, oh my gosh, they're doing a new series. And then I didn't watch it yet, and I was like, wait, they normally post on like Fridays, don't they? Why are they posting on Tuesdays? And then suddenly, it was like probably while I was taking a shower, I was like, it's April Fool's Day. Okay, we're not. It's not a big thing. It's just an April Fool's Day video. So,
no, I have. I've lost it. I was going to ask you something. I'll remember it. Oh, the minisode. Now we watched The Night of the Doctor.
Yes.
Would the crossover with EastEnders, is that considered a minisode, or is that I know that's a charity thing, but I mean, you say there's a bunch of these.
Yeah, they were all for the charity Children in Need, which I think the EastEnders one also was for that. So there's a bunch of them that are just sort of like, before this episode, there's this scene or there's a little thing. I know there was a recent one with one of the recent Doctors. I just didn't even bother watching it because most of them are good, but they're just, we got the 1 or 2 main characters on the set of the TARDIS. We filmed something real quick, and then we put that on TV during the Children in Need charity event. So it's the same with the one that has David Tennant at the beginning of his run when he first regenerates, and it's just him and Rose on the TARDIS. It's always just something like that, something small. This one that we're gonna watch is also kind of that. It's just 2 people on the TARDIS, but this one is good and worth it. Okay. The Night of the Doctor was a special that they made like 2 or 3 around the time of the 50th anniversary that are more than just the Children in Need stuff. It's supposed to lead into that.
Yeah.
So,
well, because that's where he regenerates into the War Doctor.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that one is a important, like, necessary to the plot.
Yeah.
All the others really aren't necessary to anything.
Okay.
So, And some of them get like hard to find and stuff. I mean, the one we're gonna watch, I found the only official upload of that minisode is on the BBC YouTube channel. It's 16 years old, and I loaded it up, and it's not the greatest quality, but it will have to do, and we will have to make it work. So,
All right.
Anywho, with that, we should probably just jump right into the finale, the season 3 finale of Doctor Who.
And the Earth was no more.
Baselane traffic is advised to stay away from Sol 3, also known as Earth. Pilots are warned Sol 3 is now entering terminal extinction. Planet Earth is closed. Planet Earth is closed. Planet Earth.
That's just Earth now. What did the Master actually do?
Martha Jones who says she's going to save the world. Bit late for that.
How come you can drive? Don't you get stopped?
Medical staff. Used to be in pediatrics back in the old days. But that gives me a license to travel so I can help out at the labour camps.
Great. I'm travelling with a doctor.
He does not seem to be thrilled.
She's certainly got problems. It's been a long year. He's got statues of himself.
For those things. He's even carved himself into Mount Rushmore.
Eh.
Best to keep down.
You mean he beat Trump to it?
You know what would be hilarious? If, like, Mount Rushmore was all of his different faces.
You've been in space?
Problem with that?
No? Just, wow. Anything else I should know?
I've met Shakespeare.
Oh, I see. I told you. I have one thing to say. Isomorphic controls.
Oh.
I remember the days when the Doctor, oh, that famous Doctor, was waging a time war, battling sea devils and axons. You sealed the rift, but I ask you, how much hope has this man got? Say hello, Gandalf. Except he's not that old. But he's an alien with a much greater lifespan than you.
Technically, he is that old, but... The power he has.
Received and understood, Miss Jones.
I think I'd rather look like Gandalf than Gollum.
I'm gonna kill him if I have to wait 100 years.
Oh, he made him a tiny suit.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
You can't be him.
Skies filled with diamonds.
We share each other's memories. You sent him to Utopia.
Oh my god!
What's it talking about? What's it mean?
What are they?
Martha. Martha, tell us, what are they?
They're us. They're humans. The human race from the future.
Yeah.
But that's a paradox. If you're the future of the human race and you've come back to murder your ancestors, you should cancel yourselves out. You shouldn't exist.
And that's the paradox machine.
My masterpiece, Doctor. A living TARDIS, strong enough to hold the paradox in place.
You could do that and you couldn't fix the coordinates.
Future to collide.
We're the same species. Why do you kill so many of us?
Because it's fun.
Yeah. Good.
Human race. Great.
Oof.
Yeah.
All the furtive looks that she's giving seems to be foreshadowing something.
You know, when Rose went to the end of the world, she wasn't traumatized like that.
Martha, could you do it? Could you actually kill him?
Got no choice.
You might be many things, but you don't look like a killer to me.
I think I can kill him. We're not talking about putting down old Yeller. We're talking about Space Super Hitler.
I have some information for the Master. Concerning Martha Jones.
You caught him in the middle of a good night.
I travelled across the world.
He walks among us. Our Lord.
So now, Among Us.
Anybody? Nobody? No? Nothing?
Bueller?
Meh.
And now, good companion, your work is done.
Oh no, Tom!
Planet Earth marches to war.
Citizens of Earth, rejoice and observe.
This is one of the most depressing episodes ever.
Yeah.
Your teleport device, in case you thought I'd forgotten. And now,
They planted a bomb on that.
kneel.
Kneel before Zod.
Down below.
The Resistance knew about her son.
That's why I came to find you, know your enemy.
I told her about the gun so she could get me here at the right time.
But you're still gonna die.
You want to know what I was doing?
You're not thinking
Traveling
this
the
through.
world. Right across the world, one word, just one thought at one moment, but with 15 satellites.
What? The Archangel Network.
A telepathic field, binding the whole human race together with all of them, every single person on Earth thinking the same thing at the same time, and that word is Doctor.
Oh, you fell for it, fool!
One thing you can't do. Stop them thinking. Tell me the human race is degenerate now.
Oh, he's going Super Saiyan.
Legend of this.
Whatever this is.
And you know what happens now.
Oh, he flies now.
I forgive you. Protect the paradox. Protect the paradox.
Protect the paradox.
Captain, the paradox machine. You men, with me. You stay here.
Yes, sir. Oh, statues.
Paradox is broken. Reverted black. 1 year, 1 day. 2 minutes past 8 in the morning.
This is Unit Central. What's happened up there? We just saw the president assassinated.
Oh, poor guy.
What do we do with this one? We kill him.
We execute him.
No, that's not the solution.
Oh, I think so.
Go on. Do it.
Do it.
See, you're better than him. It's time to change. Maybe I've been wandering for too long. Now I've got someone to care for.
Ooh.
Regenerate. Just regenerate. Please, please, just regenerate. Come on. I'll spend the rest of my life imprisoned with you. You've got to. Come on. You can't end like this.
You could just choose not to regenerate.
You and me, all the things we've done.
Axons, remember the Axons? And the Daleks?
Oh, the Axons.
Right, stop, Doctor. It's drumming. Will it stop?
Oh no. The Master died. I've never seen that before.
Viking funeral. Or a Jedi Sith Lord funeral.
See, that's the way to do it. It's cremation if it was extra.
Yeah.
Just to say, I don't blame you.
What? Would you keep those flowers if someone randomly did that to you?
What happens if I live for 1,000,000 years?
I really don't know.
You look like he did.
I was the first one ever to be signed up for the Time Agency. They were so proud of me. The face of Bo, they called me. I'll see you.
Oops.
Yeah.
No. Definitely not, no.
That's what happens. That's what you look like in 1,000,000 years. Oh, he took his hand back too.
I just can't.
Yeah.
Spent all these years training to be a doctor. Now I've got people to look after. They saw half the planet slaughtered and they're devastated. I can't leave them.
Of course not.
Can't really go to a therapist either.
And she wasted years pining after him, years of her life. Because while he was around, she never looked at anyone else. And I told her, I always said to her time and time again, I said, get out. This is me. Getting out. Keep that. Because I'm not having you disappear. If that rings, when? That rings, you better come running, got it?
Got it.
I'll see you again, mister.
Alright, that felt good. Get it all off your chest.
Well, that was ominous.
Eh. Oh, jeez. It's a boat!
What?
Alright, next time. Coming back this Christmas. Alrighty. That's the end of season 3.
Alright. Well, again, I know a lot of people, especially from the UK, comment about how we need to be told things ahead of time. And I was saying, at some point, the Doctor's, the Master's female companion was going to do something, and she did. She ended up shooting him. Whether or not she killed him or not, we don't know that because, you know, a female hand picked up the ring at the end.
I mean, she did kill him.
Yeah.
Shot him, he refused to regenerate, and his body was burning, and then something.
Something happened. But the rest of it, yeah, that was, again, it strikes me that you have a writer who way back in season 2 talked about the face of Bo.
That was like season 1. That was episode 2 was when we first introduced him.
With the Ninth Doctor?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, you've got a guy who's thinking seasons ahead. Somehow or other figures Captain Jack Harkness in there. And then just, casually kind of throwing it off. Yeah, they used to call me the face of Bo. And it's like, What?
Yeah, it's at the very least, because the Face of Bo first mentions he first mentions that he has a secret for the Doctor, which is in season 2. It's not until we see him die in season 3 that he says, "You are not alone." So whether or not RTD was actually planting the seeds, already thinking of a storyline with the Master in season 1 or season 2, is open for debate. But he was at least working on it. He knew that was going to be the thing for this season.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, we're talking about the guy who did the whole Bad Wolf thing.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's just, I think it's fascinating that there's a sense, and I hate to use the word continuity. We've been discussing that for 30 seasons now, where previously there was literally very little that connected any of these random pieces. But now, in the new Who era, you've got people who are thinking not just an entire season, but seasons down the line, that somewhere you're going to bring back stuff that you had initially put into this new season 1, so that, and again, didn't have to be specifically at the end of the 9th Doctor. It wasn't at the end of the first season of the 2nd Doctor, or the 10th Doctor. So it's just that I find that fascinating that they are plotting these points so that at some point, weaving back and forth, they can get to where they want to be, which was the end of the Master, supposedly.
Oh, trust me, there's going to be more stuff that they are going to set up and pay off like 3 or 4 seasons later with like different people, basically.
Yeah.
There is far more continuity in modern Doctor Who, almost to its detriment, just because it sort of makes it hard, like, to find a good jumping on point. Like, you can, I wouldn't recommend jumping onto Doctor Who at any point with the 10th Doctor. You have to start with the 9th Doctor, because they keep referencing, like, they keep referencing Rose, which means if you want the full context of Rose, you have to go back to the 9th Doctor's era. And so, like, the 11th Doctor is a little bit better. Like, if you start from the 11th Doctor's first episode, it's generally a good place to start. But even now, where it's like, with Shudigawa, they have kind of made it to where it's just like, well, you can jump in here if you want. But then, not only is there a lot of continuity with modern Doctor Who, there's so much continuity with classic Doctor Who. I'm not even sure how some people keep up if they've only watched modern Doctor Who. Yeah. Like, there's some things going on, like, nowadays where I'm just like, well, I know about this, but that's because I watch classic Doctor Who. Yeah. Not a lot of people are going to do that. So, but yeah, and I mean, just the continuity alone of just bringing back the Daleks is fairly easy. Bringing back the Master is a bit more difficult for any new viewers. Certainly was for me.
Yeah.
So,
opening up the Toclafane to find human, just for a moment, I thought it was going to be the squids from the Daleks, or who's the creator of the Daleks?
Davros.
I mean, because it looked a bit like Davros, and I thought, wait a minute, is this going to be, bringing back the Daleks for the billionth time? So, looking at the face, I would have never have thought these are the people that they sent on to Utopia.
Yeah, it's not until they say the skies are made of diamonds that you would get that. So, I did also. I remember I looked this up because I remembered this episode and I was like, at first I thought the Master had created them, but I went and looked it up and it's confirmed in this episode that no, he didn't. He just went and found them. The human race, once they went to Utopia, basically just did this to themselves, and then the Master came in and was able to take control of them. So, but otherwise, no, they were not his creation, which I kind of thought they were. Yeah. So, I guess it just makes it even darker that he didn't create them. He didn't create this tragedy of the human race. Yeah. So,
no, and I will reiterate something we said in the last episode. The Master being literally the Joker. I mean, he's very animated. He's all over the place. I mean, he's Jack Nicholson. He's Heath Ledger. Whereas before, and hopefully the UK audience would get this, he was more of a Snidely Whiplash. Almost a melodramatic, cartoony type. Twirling the mustache. Because that's the look he had.
He was more of Moriarty than anything else.
Yeah.
Which is ironic because then they would make Sherlock and that Moriarty. I guess I don't have a basis on that Moriarty. Was he very different from the actual character? I assume he was.
Yes, in the novels, they describe him as very reptilian, and that he was always like constantly doing his hands like this, and he had a very high forehead, and he was balding, and it was just, he was very deliberate. You have gotten in my way so many different times, Mr. Holmes. To have him, all over the place like this is just a little jarring.
Yeah. That was the thing about Sherlock, was that it wasn't, that Moriarty wasn't quite like the Master is here, but you can very much see, I mean, just in that entire show, you can see the DNA of Doctor Who in Sherlock, which makes sense because it was made by Moffat and Gatiss. So I'm starting to see a new trend of videos cropping up of Sherlock was actually garbage, and I've just refused to watch any of them because I don't care. I enjoyed the show. There's reactions to it here on the channel. Yeah. I enjoyed the show, and that's just kind of the end of that. Yeah. So,
and I think I had said this when we watched it, that I wish they had actually put Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman actually back in Victorian times. I would have liked to have seen them do an actual Sherlock Holmes from the Victorian times and not bring it forward to the modern times. But be that as it may, what they did with it I thought was interesting and enough in the vein of what Conan Doyle had done that it didn't bother me. There was a Sherlock TV series that I think I watched like the first and second episode and just went, no, this is, I can't do this. So we didn't watch the rest. There's a new one on now called Watson. Haven't watched that. We're taping it so that we can watch it later. But I don't like for the formula to be messed with too much. Yeah. So again, I wonder if that was written that way, if that's the way the director wanted it. Or that was just an actor's choice to. I mean, let's face it, because didn't The Dark Knight come out about this time?
Yeah. Well, this would be about 2007, I suppose.
So, I don't know, but maybe one influenced the other, maybe not. But just to see him as such an incredibly overacting, and it's, again, that's not the actor's fault. It's that but to see this hyperactive type of master, when the only thing we've had to really go on before were Delgado and Ainley, and I mean, he is a little bit like Eric Roberts, but it's very jarring.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like I can see parts of it, like some of the things that he does. I could see Anthony Ainley's Master on a really good day for him, pulling off some of this stuff, and there'll be stuff later. Spoiler alert: the Master comes back.
Well, yes, we know that.
Yeah, the fact that the last time we saw him was in the movie and he died there and his body was completely destroyed, and at the beginning of that movie he was also dead and came back. Yeah, the Master will come back. It's interesting, some of the performances John Simm will give, and eventually other actors that will portray the Master. So I don't know if John Simm is anyone's favorite Master. He's certainly an interesting version of the character, though. Yeah. So,
and I think one of the things is, because we watched the Doctor have so many different personalities, but there wasn't really ever an abrupt change. Troughton was somewhat reserved, like Hartnell was, but then when Troughton was whimsical, that kind of led into what Pertwee was doing, and then Pertwee's I don't want to say he was overacting, but he was very flamboyant, which was okay then to translate into Tom Baker.
Because with Pertwee, you kind of have the idea of like, well, they do a serious doctor, then they do a goofier doctor. With Pertwee, it's almost that the seriousness was the joke some of the times, and he could get like really serious, if he was mad at the Brigadier or something. But there were also times that seriousness would sort of play into the comedy of it.
Yeah.
And then you get Tom Baker. He's just he's just a whack job all over the place technically, but. And then you get Davison is more reserved. Colin Baker's really a whack job all over the place. And then,
but the problem was, I never found Colin Baker to be funny. He was just. I mean, you watch him going. This guy needs, needs some medication.
The writing never supported him. Like he could have done a ton of great things.
Yeah.
But the writing never backed him up on that. So.
But and that's why I thought Seventh Doctor. McCoy, Sylvester McCoy. I thought he was a real combination of most of the earlier Doctors because he could do all of that stuff. And then Paul McGann was very serious, but he did have a lighter side. I mean, the romantic side, but still.
Yeah.
And again, then when we get to the Ninth Doctor, he is very much like McCoy in that he can be very serious, but he can also be.
It's a
prankster.
It's the thing of we've had 10 people. And we can see a gradient. We can see a character change with each of them sort of building off on the other. Whereas with the Master, we had Roger Delgado, and then we didn't. And we didn't have the Master for a long time until he was Crispy, which is its own thing entirely. And then he became Anthony Ainley, who, while he did sort of have his own approach to the Master, it very much seemed like they wanted to recapture the Delgado performance. So they had him do it, and then it was only him for pretty much like he shows up at the end of the Fourth Doctor's era, and he's there through the end of the Seventh Doctor's era. And then you have Eric Roberts, which was its own thing entirely. So it's like there's not this like gradient of change, seeing how each of them, through many different writers and performances were able to get to David Tennant.
Yeah.
It's that we had a Master, then we had another Master eventually that was kind of like that Master, and now what do we do if we want to try to match Tennant's energy? But none of these writers ever built up to that moment.
Yeah.
So they were just figure something out, and who knows, maybe they had the script, and the director was like, John, just do what you can, and John Sim did the best he could with that.
And I'm not saying that I dislike what he did. I mean, what he did obviously worked for what they were doing. It's just that, having seen all of the classic Who and seen Ninth and earlier 10th Doctor, it's not the way I would have done it. Director's privilege. That's why I hate going to see other people's productions, because I sit there and go, they did a nice job with that show. I would have done it completely differently. But
yeah, it's an interesting thing because the concept is really interesting and new. The Master won. He won that entire thing. He took over the Earth for an entire year, enslaved the human race, was destroying everything. This is the Master at the height of his power. But either they don't have enough time to really delve into that for the Master's character, or they didn't care enough and they just said, go forth, John, and do what you can as a psychopath at the height of his power. And so it doesn't fully integrate what would the Master be like in this situation.
Yeah.
So,
still enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
So those of you who have made it to this point, if you've already started typing away about how wrong we were, please understand. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, please understand. But there are a couple more opportunities for John Sim. His next appearance, I can already see it in my head, and the folks at home know what I'm talking about. His next appearance is interesting. It's sort of another one like this one, but we'll get to that far later. So,
which Doctor? 11, 12, 13?
It will still be the 10th Doctor.
Oh,
so,
okay.
But it'll be a little bit before we get to that. So, as for the other stuff, I guess since we're at the end of the season, what did you think of Martha as a companion?
I liked her. The fact that she is probably one of the most educated and yet still down to earth, gave her the ability to spar with the Doctor. And again, I thought the whole build up of the fact that she fell in love with him very quickly, but then she was very ably saying there at the end, I just can't do it, And the fact that they set up the thing with Dr. Milligan when she goes, I'm going to see if he is actually someone here. All right, and she says to him, I've waited long enough. I finally understand that you can't, and she doesn't blame him for that. She is sorry that it never went anywhere, but says, I've got other things that I need to do and I can't waste my time.
Yeah. It definitely seems like, I mean, most people would agree that Martha is a really great companion. It's an interesting thing because it's like, on the one hand, you kind of wish there wasn't this whole subplot of, she's in love with the Doctor, but the Doctor doesn't really, see her very much. And it's one of those things where it's like, it almost hampers what she does in the season, but it is also slightly the point. That's part of the story arc of this season, is the Doctor, trying to move past losing Rose. It's a very traumatic thing. Probably the most traumatic companion exit since Adric.
Yeah.
And Adric probably wasn't actually that traumatizing to the Doctor, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, the thing about that is Adric died, but he had no real connection other than Adric was a friend and a companion. The fact that Rose didn't die, that he knows that she's alive, but in a parallel universe that he can't get to, that's even more tragic.
Yeah, so it's an interesting... It is an interesting thing, but I would say they did utilize Martha very well.
Yeah.
So it would have been nice to see more, but it also makes sense just being a one season and then out companion. So,
I'm guessing he's not going to pick up a companion from the Titanic.
The Titanic is an interesting thing that we will get to. Next episode.
When I saw Voyage of the Dam, I swear there was a movie like in the 40s or early 50s, but it was about a group of Jewish people from Europe who decided to escape Europe, and they got onto an ocean liner and basically tried to come to the United States, and the United States refused them entry. So it was one of those things where, the land of the free, home of the brave, I lift my lamp beside your whatever door. I can't remember the exact, but they were people who were coming to America because this was the land of opportunity, and the United States said, it's too touchy, we can't do that. And I think that movie was called Voyage of the Dam, but I may be mistaken.
So, I don't know. It seems like a very unrealistic story now that you say it like that. It's just, I can't see America turning them away nowadays. So.
Well,
there's a part of me that wonders if we're starting to get too political in these videos, but at the same time, I don't care, and nobody's complained anyway. Yeah. So,
and again, bringing up the parallel in 1967 or 68 somewhere. I told you there was a TV show on ABC here in the United States called The Time Tunnel, and one of their very first episodes was the two men who had gone through the tunnel landed on the Titanic, and it was one of those things of, do we tell them what's going to happen? Because there's nothing they can do to really prevent it. We can't alter history, but on the other hand, can we let 1,500 people die?
Yeah, so... you ever see the movie? The Titanic movie?
Yes.
With James Cameron?
Yes.
I can't remember if I have or not.
It's okay. Now, quite honestly, there's a much better movie, and I know this is probably heresy in many people's minds, but in the late 50s or early 60s, they made a movie of the novelization called A Night to Remember. And A Night to Remember is actually inspired by or even written by one of the people who was on the crew of the Titanic. And it was his recollection of the things that had happened there. And of course, it's somewhat fictionalized because they have to bring in personal stories. But it's much more accurate accounting of what actually happened on that night.
So, We'll take a guess if it's going to be a very accurate accounting on the next episode of Doctor Who. It's not, but it's certainly an interesting Christmas episode.
And I point this out just because, I like to say stuff like this. In 1956, when I was about 5 years old, my father was stationed at Chaumont Air Force Base in far eastern France, right by the German border. But this is before international air travel for civilians. And so in New York Harbor, we boarded the USN Geiger. It was a former troop transport ship from World War II that had been converted to an ocean liner. And we sailed across the Atlantic from New York to Bremerhaven, Germany, in March, on literally the exact reverse course that the Titanic would have taken coming from Southampton to New York. And I don't know if my parents were aware of that. I certainly wasn't at the time. It was only later that I looked at that and went, holy crap, we were literally like right at the same time of year going the exact same route, only in the opposite direction. But again, in 1956, there was radar, there was all these other sort of things that there was never any real damage or any possibility that we were going to hit an iceberg or anything like that. But that's just a weird little fact that I've actually done the voyage of the Titanic in reverse.
I guess the only other thing for this episode I remembered, so the first time I watched this episode, I watched it and I enjoyed it and everything was fine. And then I started getting some comments saying that I had apparently missed a scene because in the original, in my original reaction, and I watched it on Amazon Prime when it was still on Amazon Prime, and they cut out the part where Mrs. Jones points the gun at the Master, and that was just completely taken out. It just goes from they're all just standing there to Lucy shooting him, and that's basically it. So I have no idea why that was cut. I've seen other people's reactions, and they did not miss that scene. And I was curious as that was happening. I was like, oh yeah, I wonder if it's cut out in this, and it's not. So, so luckily the DVDs have the full episode, but I have no idea why that happened. I know all of these old Doctor Who episodes are on HBO Max now. I'd be curious if they're on there. Maybe that was just some weird American cut. I don't know why that would have been cut, considering someone shoots him anyway. But I don't know. But that was just a strange thing about the first time I watched this episode.
Yeah.
So
now, a lot of the commenters have said that in the UK and in Australia or something like that, there was some censorship. I'm just wondering if they thought having the gun pointed at the camera, which literally is right in the face of the audience, if that was considered to be too frightening, because when Lucy shoots him, you don't actually see her do that.
But there's also this scene where, after they realize who the Toclafane are, there's the scene where Tom shoots the face, and that's pretty much right at the camera. Yeah. The only thing I can think is because, getting in the heads of the American censorship is a very strange task to find out, and I've seen plenty of videos of Conan O'Brien when he first got his TBS show. He went to his censor and was just like, okay, how far can I push this man in terms of what gets censored and what isn't? So maybe it's just a thing of because Mrs. Jones was a good guy that wouldn't work, or because she was so emotional about it. I guess Lucy wasn't emotional about it, but...
Yeah, and they set up Lucy doing it. Well, of course, they set up Mrs. Jones doing it, too, because they all said when they were down there, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill him. All three of them said, give him the chance, we're going to kill him.
If anything, it would have made the most sense if Jack did it, just coming off of Torchwood. Speaking of which, in this entire year, where was the Torchwood team? He said last episode that he sent them on a wild goose chase to the Himalayas and stuff. Are we to assume that Gwen, Owen, Tosh, and Yanto were trapped in the Himalayas for a year?
Or that they had been eradicated,
Maybe the Toclafane got to them specifically, but I don't know. I want to see that episode.
Yeah, let's face it, hiding out in the Himalayas would have kept them relatively safe, because it's not a very heavily populated area for obvious reasons.
Well, yeah, so I don't know. And I also want to see I need some fan artist out there to draw Mount Rushmore, but with the different faces of the Master, because that just sounds hilarious. So it's exactly something he would do, along with all. I'm surprised, actually, looking back on it now, that it's like you have the statue of the Master, but the Master would absolutely put statues of all of his other faces around. So, but yeah, I guess that's basically it. You got anything else?
I got nothing.
Then we still have a mini-sode to get to.
Oh, yeah.
Won't take but a few minutes, though. And, yeah, that video will come out on Wednesday. And then, good grief, actually, I just noticed we're on an hour and a half on this recording. This might actually be a fairly long Doctor Who video. It's been a while since we've done that.
Yeah.
But that is basically it. With all of that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around any of those. There's a playlist with all of our modern Doctor Who reactions, as well as another playlist with all the Doctor Who reactions that are on the channel. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.